Ah, hey all, welcome to Film Suck, a Patreon podcast in which we ponder the work of art in the age of crap cinema. I'm Eileen Jones, and our usual co-host Dolores McElroy is not here today. She's off creating a fabulous new life for herself in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So, congratulations, Dolores, and she'll be back with us in 2 weeks. But in her absence, I'm thrilled to have our special guest, Forrest Flacko Miller of the very lively and funny and popular podcast Movie Night Extravaganza. They have hosted me a disgraceful number of times, considering it's the first time I'm returning by asking Forrest to come on. So it's way overdue. Forrest is also, not only does he co-host Movie Night Extravaganza, he is also the former former video producer for Jacobin Magazine and the Michael Brooks Show. So welcome, Forrest. So glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. At long last. So today we're going to delve into it's a big ask to try to cover this much material, but we're going to delve into the beloved John Wick action film franchise, which provides the context for the new John Wick spinoff, which is Ballerina. It's currently in theaters, and I'm just going to do a quickish summary, quick as I can. So we can start with Ballerina and then broaden out to tackle the 4 John Wicks, which is a lot, but we will do our best. So it's going to be spoilers all over the place as usual. So if you haven't seen these and you're worried about that, you got a lot of viewing to do before you come back to this episode.
Yeah, although I don't know how much, I don't know how much spoiling really matters when it comes to John. Like, I don't like he runs around and he kills people. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, but people are so odd about spoilers.
It's true.
You just never know what reveal is going to incense people beyond.
It's just funny. Like, if a character is on screen, they're probably about to get killed. Like, that's or
yeah, but when a favorite character gets killed in some way, boy,
yeah,
it's your penalty reveal. So, but we're going to reveal everything because we always do. We always spoil everything on the show. So you just got to live with that. So anyway, Ballerina, just quickly. It stars Ana de Armas of Knives Out, No Time to Die, and Blonde. She plays a character called Eve Macara. She's a trainee at a ballet academy, which is really a front for the Ruska Roma crime family. They're actually training top assassins. I mean, they turn out an occasional ballerina too, but it's really an assassin and crime business.
That one girl that's good at ballet they kicked out.
Yes, who goes on to be.
They're like, oh no, you're good at like the thing that we're like
the thing we're
doing.
Kind of training.
There's like the Angelica Houston. She did not have the killer instinct, and it's like, well, yeah, she probably came here for like ballet.
Yeah, what does she say? She's sad. She's sad, but she's not. I forget what it is. She's only sad. That ain't gonna get you anything.
Yeah, she's sad, but she doesn't have the like I don't know, like pathos or something inside that makes for a good assassin. And it's like,
right, exactly. So she's out and she's fated to just become a prima ballerina. Poor soul. Yeah. So the director, yes, very formidable. Angelica Houston, still bringing it. More than ever, in fact. She helped to train John Wick in the past, and there's going to be encounters with the director and John Wick. And Eve is eager to follow in John Wick's legendary footsteps as top assassin. So Eve's prime motivation in becoming an assassin, she wants to avenge the deaths of her parents at the hands of a rival criminal clan that's got an uneasy truce going with the Ruska Roma. The director really says they're not really a proper crime clan. They're a cult, and they kill for sport. So she doesn't even consider them legitimate, but they're very dangerous. And it's led this cult, this sport killing cult, by a character called the Chancellor, played by Gabriel Byrne. Nice to see Gabriel Byrne back again. He's a sociopathic, patriarchal figure who rules from his base, which is a village in Austria. That's an all-assassin village, which has
it was literally the cutest village.
It really was.
They found like the cutest village on like the Swiss-Austrian border, and
absolutely.
It's like, oh come on, I don't want to see you guys all kill each other. Like, let the village be. Like, things are on fire, and I was like, oh my god, this is quaint. Stop.
It's very deliberately quaint, so you're gonna want to burst out laughing or something when sweater wearing characters start shooting.
It's like if you found out like there was like a Ku Klux Klan that only burned lawn gnomes or something like that, and they're like,
that's right. That's exactly right. So it was one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's just like, oh my god, and it's very wintry and adorable, and it's really worth seeing, I thought. So at any rate, this patriarch, the chancellor, he was trying to keep control over Eve when he murdered the father. He'd already murdered the mother. He murders the father for being an escapee who's trying to free his little daughter from a life of crime and assassination and killing and blah, blah, blah. And there's a very spectacular home invasion sequence that opens the film. Typical action film opens with a bang. But in general, the patriarch's sick focus seems to be on especially keeping his daughters and granddaughters under his control. It's always girls and women who are really the target here, which is useful to know. So let's just plunge into like overall takes, hard as it is to do that kind of thing. Forrest, what did you think of Ballerina?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about what you thought about a certain part of it. I think it's because like watching all of the John Wick movies in a row, just to catch up on it, because like as I said to you, like I watched the first one and I got sad about the dog and then didn't really continue on with it. So I watched all of them. There's that obsession with like the rules, like that's the central underlying theme that kind of makes this whole thing work. That there's like rules, and if you break the rules, which is, it's funny to do that and also be watching Goodfellas like this week twice. So it's like that's another. They literally have the same exact like the rules. If you break the rules, you die. Like
yes, exactly,
same thing. But like I thought it was interesting that like the crime family in this, that's like the villainous kind of crime family, is like is the mirror world where it's like they're former assassins that somehow broke away, which is the thing that John Wick's been saying he wants to do for movies and then doesn't do every time. And he's like, he's like, man, I'll get out of here, in the next one. But it's like,
everyone marvels because he got away for 5 years. That's the backstory with his beloved wife. He managed to get out. Nobody gets out. So he gets out for 5 years, then comes back in for reasons we'll get into. And then he's incredibly to get out a second time.
Ballerina, right? Like you find out actually a lot of people have gotten out and they started their own, and like I thought this was kind of an impressive idea. Like a lot of people have gotten out, but they've just become like a mirror world exactly as ruthless as maybe even more so because they're like, oh well, we have to kill to make sure that they stay at bay and don't kill us. So like it's this crazy mirror world. Like one side has their own rules. So they're like, these are the rules. And if you break the rules, and then they're like, oh yeah, there's these other people that we've never mentioned before. You've made it through 3 movies. We've never even talked about these people existing, but now we're introducing them, and they operate on their own set of rules. But their rules are like, you don't have to listen to those rules. You have to listen to these rules. And throughout the whole thing, they keep referring to them as like a cult, which I mean, that's like that's like the word of the era, right? Like everybody's a cult. This is a cult. That's a cult. This is a death cult. Like, but like I don't think that they're any less of a or any more of a cult than the other side of it, the flip side. And I guess that's kind of the point that they were making. But like when you hear like the Ruscaroma, like one of those people be like, "Oh, that's a cult." It's like, yeah, but you're kind of
your own cult.
Yeah,
exactly. But you've always got to have. It's like if you watch pirate movies. There's classic pirate movies. It's very much like that in that there's going to wind up being, even though they're cutthroats and all this other stuff, there's still going to wind up being good pirates and bad pirates.
Yeah. Well, and there's this thing with like, I mean, we started off our conversations about movies in general, like doing noir movies. Like we did multiple noir movies with you and as episodes. And it's like a man's got to have a code. Like that's like the classic.
Yes.
And kind of the world of John Wick in general, like this entire world. It's like the entire thing is like, oh, well, what if the world had the same code that like a noir hero has? Yeah, I wanted to like get your thoughts on the like the mirror world aspect of it, because I found that so fascinating.
I mean, I like that. I like that they keep finding a way to unfold sideways this and that. If you read interviews about the film, they're like, one thing that's really cool is you're going to get these side angles on scenes you've already seen before. So like John Wick coming to see the director for a very painful interview and her saying, you caused all this mayhem for a puppy. And he has to say, it wasn't just about a puppy. La, la, la. We've already seen a version of that in, I forget which one, 2 or 3.
Yeah, it was, I think the scene was in the 3rd one, because I only know this because I watched it the night before.
I know, and I raced through them all too. I'd seen them before, but I binged them.
You get in the middle of Ballerina, you get that scene from chapter 3, where he's like asking Angelica, because you get introduced to her for the first time in the 3rd one, and you get that exact scene where he's like asking her for help, and she's like, all right, well, you're gonna need help, but I'm also gonna brand you.
Yeah, and he has an ask, which is, and I'm dressed appropriately. I've got a director-like outfit. Here's a crucifix. It's not nearly as gaudy as hers. Is the one that he's holding up to her, which is you only find out in the scene that this represents, you owe me and you have to do something for me.
Yeah.
And then she says, well, okay, I'll do it.
they're always giving each other trinkets, and you find more
Yeah,
and more
there's
trinkets.
always trinkets or
Yeah.
symbolic objects, and that's very genre film. This is all summed up in this object.
Yeah,
So
but
when
I
she
I feel like
breaks
they almost do it, like, as a parody in some ways, like,
Yeah,
they're always trying to find, like, because the second one, like, is it's pretty mind-blowing that, like, the world of John Wick kind of expands outwards, and it's like, "Oh, well, you have to trade somebody," and it comes into the third one too, but, like, they introduce the idea that if you, swear, like, a blood oath to somebody, you get a
yes,
coin, and you have to put your blood into the coin, and then they keep the
yes.
coin, and then they give it back to you when you complete your task.
Yes, yes. So that's your marker, and that's
Yeah,
one of the rules. There's only a few key rules. You must honor a marker.
yeah.
So that's gonna be what kicks off the plot of John Wick 2. In order to get out, and they don't explain how it got him out, he had to give his marker to this ruthless Italian,
Well,
you know
they keep calling it the impossible task. I like these movies because
Mhm.
they come up with these, like, kind of phrases, and they don't really need like, they don't feel the need to explain them. Like, I noticed that, like, the first John Wick has, like, almost no dialogue
Yeah,
besides, what's needed. Like, it's the dialogue is very terse and very necessary, and as it it gets to be more and more dialogue, I guess, as the movies go on, but still, it's like, they keep referencing, like, the impossible task, and if you ask, like, "Oh, what's the impossible task?" You're gonna go insane, like, they're never
right.
gonna tell you, so it's like
Which is I'm with you, I love that, and in fact, I get irritated on the few occasions where they feel like they have to explain,
yeah,
because we already know.
and
If you're
Ballerina felt like it was more they did more explaining
Yeah,
than the other movies, which, I
yeah,
mean, isn't the worst thing, but they also like, I like that they, like, specifically in Ballerina,
mhm,
they started kind of unraveling, like, how the academy works, which it also fills up your, like, I guess, quota for understanding how John Wick got to this point, because it's
yeah,
like, he went to the Roscaroma, and then he must have gone through the same training, and they
yeah,
trained him, and, like, you don't really get that information in the John Wick movie, so they fill in these sidelines that are like,
mhm,
"Oh, well, now you understand how this guy got to be an assassin," but not only
mhm,
is he an assassin, they're kinda just churning out assassins, and
mhm.
throughout the whole series, it's like, how are there so many like, they're everywhere, like, they put out
The
a hit
world
on
of
somebody, and then all of a sudden you see, like, like, half of them are, like, Japanese, and then, like,
Mhm.
you see, like, a
Yep.
woman that's, like, French with, like, the
Mhm.
violin that she's playing or whatever, and then suddenly her violin is, like, a weapon,
Yeah.
how are, because the whole time you're like, watching people kinda just wander around aimlessly, and those are, like, normal people, and
Yes.
normal people kinda have to live side by side with, like, a whole world full of assassins that at any moment could just erupt into violence. Somehow, a lot of the normal people never get killed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's very Chinese Hong Kong World of
Yeah,
Heroes. Same thing, they're hiding in plain like, if you ever see Kung Fu Hustle, which is a
yeah,
great
I love Kung
summary
Fu
and
Hustle.
referring back to how it works, they're just hiding
I think
amongst
about,
you.
that scene with the instrument where he goes, and then all of a sudden the dragons come out of his harp. I think about that scene, like,
Yes, it's beautiful, beautiful, wonderful movie, wonderful. But it really gives you the strong summary sense of not only are they amongst you, but they will try to keep you normals out.
yeah.
You're not part of the fighting, if possible, they can manage it, of the World of Heroes, which is
But
only
then
one.
the one place that they and it's very video game logic,
Mm,
throughout the whole thing, and I like that, but,
mhm,
there's, like, the one place is, like, a safe haven, it's, like, the one space they really own in the world, they're like,
mhm.
"Oh, no, nobody can, like, get killed here," and it's
Yes,
like,
the
"Alright, well,
Continental Hotel.
you guys
Mhm.
have to spill this out into, like, the regular world, but
Yes.
if, like, the one place you guys actually own, it's like."
Yes, is the place you can't do business. But,
Yeah,
of course, John Wick is gonna be forced to do business
yeah.
at the end of 2, right? So, then he's excommunicado, there's always grandiose terms for everything
Yeah.
we will get into, well, what's the appeal? Why, especially in the John Wicks, do you not have to explain? I have a whole argument that I've made elaborately in other places in Jacobin magazine about it's all appeal to the working class in my view, and there's all of this stuff that you don't have to explain because emotionally we already understand, so it's actually irritating to have John Wick repeat, you killed my dog, you killed my puppy, in other words, you took everything I cared about, and we're like, we know
Well,
we know
they
all about
do.
when they take the last little thing
Yeah.
you have.
When they reference it, it's, like, in the context of, like, kind of mocking both the movie and the audience, like,
Mhm.
they're like, "All of this for a puppy," or, like, that's, like,
Yes.
or
Which
it's like,
the audience is like, "What do you
yeah,
mean all of for a
yeah.
puppy?" They literally had to go to the producers demanded that the original director, Chad Stahelski, and I can't remember if it was Keanu Reeves or the co-director, David Leitch, I think it was Leitch, and they had to come before they began production and justify killing the puppy because they were so concerned with whether the
Here
audience would
it's a
stand
like,
for it.
yeah.
You can't kill the puppy. You can't kill the puppy, and so but great action film liftoff. From after that, any mayhem is not only justified but necessary. So that people instinctively understand. We see this in other things. If you look at like Taken with Liam Neeson, it's they took his daughter, and
Yeah.
he keeps saying, "If you'll just give me my daughter back, we can all just walk away. I won't even come after you." But they won't give his daughter back, so he's just like, "All right then."
There's
So,
something though about Taken that feels much more like a appeal to like the lower
oh, very much
are
cruder
very
and
yeah,
nastier.
very like are
Yeah,
very base instincts because the
very.
characters in within like Taken are always like yeah, some representation of like enemies of like the American empire pretty much is like either like the worst cartel members or whatever like there's something
And
that
it's
feels
far
almost
more misogynistic, horribly
yeah.
so. Horribly so.
Whereas
But
this feels a lot I mean, the stylistic nature of it, number
mhm,
1, but number 2, like, just kind of the amount of fun they have with it because they
mm,
don't have a lot like, there's no point in, like, a movie like Taken where they're, like, they crack a joke or something, because it's like,
mhm. No.
this feels very funny and it feels very,
Mhm,
like in order to justify the brutality and the violence within this world, it feels like they have to make you aware that it's a movie, like you're watching something cool. Like there's something almost, I mean, almost ballet like, I guess, about the
mhm,
violent sequences. Like the more violent it is, there's the more expressive and like the more kind of stylistic and almost beautiful. Like these sequences are like there were moments in Ballerina where they're all fighting each other, and like I love when movies do this, but there's like they make sure to back her into a situation. It's the one with Norman Reedus from
yeah,
Walking Dead,
right.
and there's so much shit in this room that he's in, and like you're
Mhm,
like, okay, they're gonna use every object in this
yes.
room within this fight, and then they do, and it's like it's almost I don't know. It's the martial arts aspect of it, I guess, is way more apparent than a movie where it's just like, oh, let's like shoot somebody and
Yeah. But it's also comparable to the musical, which no one who's an action film ever likes hearing, but it's so like the musical.
yeah,
Same where you hardly need any plot or character development. You just need setup enough so that the elaborate and beautiful musical numbers, and they're Astaire specialized in, he's gonna use every object in the room.
yeah, yeah,
Dancing. So it's
definitely,
very structurally anyway, it's very like that. That's really why you're there. So when you read critics who hate, and a lot of people hate Ballerina, they don't like action films. So they're just like, somebody writing for the New York Times says it's got a plot you could write on a mat on the back of a matchbook cover, and I'm like, yeah, it's an action film. Have you ever seen one? They don't have in depth, as a rule, super complicated
yeah.
plots. That's not why you go to action films. You go for
I
other
I
reasons.
I feel like, the only thing I can really or one of the things I can say is comparable to, like, this world is the
Hmm.
world that, like, Robert Rodriguez has created with, like, the Machete series, like,
Hmm.
where he's kind of, parodying these, like, hyper violent, like, blaxploitation films,
Hmm.
and from, like, the '70s, and it's like,
Yeah.
that feels like this kind of world where there's
Hmm.
something smart about it at the same time as being like,
Hmm.
you don't need somebody to, like, turn to the camera and explain everything to you. It's just there's cool stuff in this world, and they're fighting with each other, and
Hmm.
like, but the fact that there's limited dialogue and the fact that there's all this action, like, it feels like you're watching something intelligent at the same time.
Well, I'm with you, but there's a huge, especially Ballerina. Ballerina isn't doing. It's weird. It's made 40 some million, but it's still regarded as not doing particularly well. Cost 90 million. They're saying it would have to make 225 million to really be profitable. So it's being regarded as being written off as not doing well. And even though it's not,
This is a weird year for that because they were
yes,
trying to say,
the same thing about what was the movie?
they're trying to say it about Sinners.
Sinners, when Ben
Because they
Stiller
gave
said, "In what world does a $60
yeah.
million opening weekend mean it's a kind of a failure?" Yeah,
Yeah, because
that
they're
was
trying to they're trying to, besmirch Ryan Coogler for Sinners
yes,
because he got that deal that really gives him artistic license. It really allows him to
right.
take kind of this financial kind of ownership of his own
Mhm.
work.
Yeah,
And because of that, every like media critic when you look at who the media critics are that like we're saying this stuff, it's like, oh, you're a former like producer at or like a former executive at like a big film company, like,
mhm,
and you don't want people to get this deal, like,
right.
but they never say in, like, the little description or whatever, "He used to
No.
work for, like, Paramount or something,"
Mhm.
like
Right, right, exactly. I mean, and I also can't help but think, and maybe this is just because I'm a woman, but it does seem like, you know it being a woman-led thing is naturally going, that's gonna be a tricky thing. How many women have ever headed up a successful action film franchise? Well, Sigourney Weaver. And then you're kinda like going, well, Charlize Theron
Yeah.
was great in, Mad Max Fury Road, but that was a one-off, and, it's a tough thing to bring off, and I especially loved when they added to the title Ballerina, which it had always had from the world of John Wick, and you could just picture the macho guy showing up to buy a ticket and not wanting to say one for Ballerina. So you could say one
Yeah.
from the world of
I
John
don't know,
Wick. And there's this
I walked into the
patriarchal theme going on in the movie that is maybe not gonna be a popular favorite.
I walked in and I was just like, "I'm gonna see Ballerina, please."
Ballerina, what's the problem? Come on, I know. But
But like when you think of like ballerina movies, like most of them are pretty dark. Like I mean,
oh,
like Black
yeah. Red
Swan, like
shoes? Yeah.
yeah, like there's
Yeah.
like whenever like there's never a movie that's just like, oh, this is just ballerinas having fun. It's always, I mean, I
Yes.
guess like if you're like, oh, I'd like to go see like Swan Lake or something, but
Well, and I loved that about the premise that they're taking like the height of athleticism, but it's very female centered. And if you've ever seen a ballerina's mangled feet, in real life, it's hideous. You
yeah,
want to look away. It's awful. Their feet are just destroyed. So they build the opening scene, one of the early scenes of Eve getting her training, where her feet are bleeding to her toe shoes, and the director says, "Go tend your wounds so you don't develop sepsis, and then we'll have to cut up your feet."
it's
Um,
like the one time she's actually doing ballet too.
it is. Very brief. It's like, again, we just want to get the premise going. So then
Yeah.
we launch into action, which I'm very fond of. I love this. I don't need constant I don't want to hear the constant further explanations of what's
Well,
going on here.
I think, I mean, I've talked about this a lot with, Conan, like, my Movie Night Extravaganza co-host,
Mhm,
but we've talked about it a lot, the kind of the dumbing down of media literacy
mm,
and the urge to kind of, and I think some of it is like, mainstream kind of pop movies, right? Like, which John Wick is, like, it is like a series
yeah,
of movies that's supposed to appeal to like a wide audience. But
mhm,
there's like an assumption that the wide audience, unless you constantly explain to them and give them like asides and talk to them like,
yeah,
like there's a
they
bunch of
can't
morons
get
that are
it.
watching it, they're
Yeah,
not gonna be able to get what's happening in the
yeah.
movie, and that's not true, although, sometimes Twitter makes me question it.
You really do wonder. I mean, to what extent do people really need further notes? I
But
mean,
it
there's
seems like,
literally
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
we've gone from like look like a look, don't tell kind of policy when it comes to a lot of stuff
Mhm,
in films, like throughout like the new Hollywood period, to like
mhm.
a very like, "Oh, no, you need to tell," and then if the person, goes out and goes to the bathroom and comes back in, you might wanna tell them again, like
Right, right. And if you work in the industry, even in the most minor way, and you're trying to get any project off the ground, the notes are always that everything needs more explanation for the script.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you're ruthlessly being held to page numbers and stuff, and it's absolutely maddening. It's like, come on, at a certain point, you can't explain every damn thing into the ground, but there's no logic to this. Every executive and producer has to justify their existence through notes. And so the notes are almost always going to be, you got to explain this further. There's going to be dialogue explaining this.
yeah.
It's just grotesque.
And then there's also like everything has to have like a couple, like if you're gonna pitch it, like cold pitch it, right? Like if you're not
Mm,
someone that has a deal with, which they're trying to limit the deals, as you can see with the Kugler thing. Like, but if you're not someone that has a deal with the studio, which is pretty rare now, like, and you're kind of just cold pitching, like
oh yeah.
everything kind of has to be reminiscent of something else, which is
Hmm.
a whole nother layer of explanation. So like
Yes.
you have to be like, oh, this is like this, but this, and
Hmm.
that's like that's the basic pitch now, rather than being like, look, I have an idea for something that nobody's ever seen before,
Hmm.
ever.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm a bigger fan of Ballerina probably than almost anyone. That's why I have my little poster probably, which is how many people want the Ballerina poster. I don't love it as much as I love the Wicks, and I'm a huge fan of the Wicks. Um, but I've been a little surprised. I mean, I guess audience numbers are huge. This is 93% audience in the parlance of our times on
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes. But it's not nearly as highly rated by critics. It got a lot of bad reviews, which I was astounded by. I didn't read them at first. I went to the movie and I'm like, oh my God. And especially the quality of the action scenes, which is a
I
very high
there's
standard in
2
John Wick.
I was, like, at the movies and I was trying to take notes for myself, like, on my phone while I was
Mhm.
while I was in the movies, and my phone kinda had, like, one of those screens on it that made it really hard to take notes when I was, uh but, like, I took notes for myself to,
Yeah.
and, like, I mean, there's a few fights that I like wrote down, which
No, there's some spectacular ones, and they get
oh,
better toward
yeah.
as you move toward the end.
I mean, the first fight, I guess that I like is the one where they're in the hotel room and it's everyone using every object in the room. But they do
Yeah,
that again in an even weirder context where she gets to like Switzerland,
the
pretty
Swiss
much. Yeah,
the village, yes.
and there's the cute little village shop, and then she walks in there, and the person immediately starts shooting at her, and then she has to shoot at them back, and then somehow within the context of this fight, like she has
Yes,
to use every single
yes.
like object in this weird little cute Swiss tourist shop, and
Yeah,
it's
there's a
like,
scene where it's breaking plates is all are
yeah.
available for both of them are just regular china, highly breakable china plates. I think I'm most fond of she's got nothing but a pair of ice skates against all these guns that are tied together by their laces, and she just does wonderful things,
She's
with the skates.
within that too, she locks the one lady into the walk-in freezer, and
Yes.
she puts the thing in there, and then everyone else is fighting her, and then she, for some reason, opens the door to the walk-in freezer, and the lady's fine, and she walks out, and then she has to, like, kill that lady, and it's like, I feel
Yes.
like I feel like maybe just walk away at that point,
Well,
like
there was and it was that I can't remember now, was that the same lady who was the nice cafe owner that was first quite
yeah,
pleasant to her and then turns
yeah,
into
and
another
then
killer?
yeah.
They're all killers. Yes, very funny.
So there's that, and then I was the firefight.
The
Like,
firefight.
genuinely, like,
Peerless. Wonderful.
beautiful, beautiful stylistic filmmaking where it's
So
just
gorgeous.
they're
As
like
fire being as beautiful as it is. And so
yeah,
when it's flamethrower versus flamethrower, and somehow they found a Dolph Lundgren look-alike,
yeah.
from
And then
the
it
old
turns into
80s
flamethrower
action film.
versus hose, and it's like,
The
ah,
hose, when
yeah,
they come up with this variation when he's got his, but she's lost her I forget how she loses her flamethrower, and then she finds a fire hose. And so in the overhead shots are the water versus the fire, and can she put it out before blah blah blah. And it's some gorgeous, gorgeous work and just inventive and clever. And really, and it builds and builds, and then John Wick coming in. The word
yeah,
is that he's only in it briefly. You kept hearing he's only going to be in it briefly. So
yeah,
he's in there
cameo.
and then suddenly in the final extravaganza, he's really there. And he's supposed to be killing her. He's assigned to. And then they wind up getting fights, and he's trying not to kill her and trying to say over and over in more and more violent encounters, just leave.
Yeah.
Just leave. You can walk away. Just go.
That's the thing that everyone's been saying to him every movie. It's like, "Walk
Yes.
away."
Walk away. Get out.
Like,
Yes.
over and over again, they're like, you can avoid this if you just walk away," and every
Yes.
single time, he never walks away, and it's like, then he's in the position of being one of those, like, side characters that are in his own movies that are just like, "Just
Mhm.
just just walk away, you'll be fine, just walk away." Like,
Mhm.
the moment in John Wick 2 where, he has the encounter in the actual place, and it's like, the manager of the hotel who's like, I love Ian McShane, like, he's a great actor,
He's
but he's
wonderful. Yeah.
but, like, there's that moment where he's just sitting there and he's like, "John, just walk away."
He's always telling people to walk away. He tells her, it's the same thing. He always tells them solemnly, do not do this. They always do it. And then he almost always facilitates them doing it. It's just the same pattern, almost always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you only create a space like that hotel, right?
Mhm.
Because people are gonna eventually, like, break those rules. Like, you don't create a rule that everyone's not gonna eventually just break. I mean, in the context of filmmaking, like, otherwise, it would just be
Well,
like,
yes,
"Oh, they're
you're
just
right.
hanging
For the
out." Yeah.
audience, it has to happen, and knowing that you can't do that in John Wick's going to have to do it and blah, blah, blah. But, the heavy consequences, and consequences is one of the words that gets repeated all the way through the John Wick
Yeah.
series. So everything he ever does comes back to bite him one way or another. The marker that he gives to the Italian guy to get free in the first place that he now has to fulfill, that's going to get him into a world of hurt starting in the second one and blah, blah, blah. And then shooting someone on the grounds of the Continental Hotel. And that means he's excommunicado and it's open season on him. And there's a huge bounty on his head and every assassin in the world. And it keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
More and more global, more and more far-flung places in the world, more and more assassins from everywhere, until finally he's up against the high table. Now we were kind of moving into the John Wick big overarching plot
Yeah.
of how big can it get? Well, he's got to go up against the ruling body over all the assassins in the world. That's the high table. Terrible, terrible, corrupt leaders. Horrible, of course. What else would they be?
Represented by, Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård,
Yeah.
who's great. Great.
One of the things I loved more than anything about all these movies is that, they have this way of, like, allowing famous character actors
Mm.
in every single one of them to
Yes.
try out like a different accent. Like
Yeah.
Bill Skarsgård has his French accent.
French accent.
The guy from Fargo, that's like, the terrifying guy that's Steve Buscemi's partner in Fargo, is in the first two movies. He's the Russian
Oh, Peter
mafia.
Stormare,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Peter
And
Stormare, mhm.
and then he plays his own brother, and he's a different accent.
No,
It's like,
Willem Dafoe is in the first one, and
yeah,
he's so plain I had forgotten he was in it because he's so straight. He plays it very straight, and you're like, "Oh, this is odd." It's Willem Dafoe
yeah.
being a friend assassin who's just being nice. He's just a nice assassin friend.
And his role seems like it's taken over, because immediately he's the one that they're like, well, we can't kill John Wick, so we'll just kill Willem
So we'll
Dafoe.
kill you.
And like immediately, his role is kind of taken over by like Ian McShane as like the guy that's supposed to be his friend, but also like telling
Mhm,
him to just walk away.
mhm.
It's like, come
Yeah,
on, walk away. Like,
yeah. And then the big, climactic thing is Donnie Yen, who's of course a legend of, Hong Kong cinema, is going to be the kind of ultimate fighter that he has to fight at the very end of 4. And I guess Donnie Yen had a lot of, had a ton of input into how he was going to play that part. So yeah, there's just a stellar cast
yeah.
of
And they keep bringing more and more people into it.
mhm.
I'm curious what happens from here, because obviously, they supposedly kill John Wick off in the fourth one.
Yes, but
Um,
they okayed the 5th one, which I somehow had been in denial. I knew they were they're always giving in and saying, "Oh, yeah, they're really after us to do it," and I thought they were holding out, and then I went and looked again and went, "No, they're doing it. How
my my
the
my
hell?"
pitch is this is what I've come up with just on the fly. International Space Station.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's exactly the move, is
Yeah,
it's gotta get bigger and bigger. Well, we've
yeah.
already gotten as big
So
as
they
it
like
can get.
so they like maybe he's like they save him in the last minute. He's like frozen in something, or like they cryogenically freeze him. They bring him back, and they're like, John Wick, there is a crazy man on the International Space Station.
Right?
Like,
And in space, no one can hear you scream. So,
yeah.
I
And then
know, it's just
and
like,
then
what?
the accent has to be something insane. Like, it has to be like the craziest accent you've ever heard.
Yes, beyond they'll have to top everything they've done, and you're like, the mind reels. I mean, the fight scenes in the John Wicks, there are some
Maybe
that
maybe
are so I
Cillian
treasure so much.
Cillian Murphy with they give him an Israeli accent, and he's like,
Yeah.
John Wick, you must. I'm going to kill you. And then he's like, then he has to be like, not if I kill you first. And then they're fighting on the International Space Station.
Yeah, and you have to find another way for him to be sick, and kind of creepy, because of course with Bill Skarsgård, what's so great is, he's this fancy Frenchy marquis,
Yeah,
and so of course he's infinitely hateable because everyone else is vermin compared to him. He's a French marquis, and so there's this wonderful scene where he is talking to Ian McShane up against his art collection, and they're just the biggest Frenchy paintings you've
they love
ever
a
seen
good.
in
They
your
love a
life.
good. They love a good art collection, because in the second one, where they have the head of the Gomorrah or whatever, like he's in the art museum, and he's like, I don't really get anything out of this art, and it's like, you uncultured swine.
Yeah, there's one of the great pleasures is all the opulence of the world of assassins.
Yeah,
So it's to die for. It's these dark, perfectly run hotels where everything is posh and plush beyond belief and well run, perfectly run. And there's just a kind of lavishness but everything is paid, again, the symbolic thing, with these gaudy gold coins, but all you have to do is present one coin and you get a room for a night, a room for a week, a meal, a brace of weapons, like whatever. It's more like here's my citizenship and good standing marker, and then you just get what you need. Which is another thing that, like, how is that not a beautiful fantasy wish fulfillment? As
yeah.
Stan Stahelski said to somebody, you don't get change. There's no, in other words, there's no nickel and diming. You just present the coin and you get what you need.
Yeah, it's any amount of money. There's I think one of the few, I guess, things that I can draw a parallel with,
Mm.
like how big they're making this world, is I don't know if you've read the series of Unfortunate Events books.
No,
Uh,
I haven't.
well, like like Daniel Handler, aka like Lemony Snicket, who he wrote the Netflix series. So like the
Mm.
Netflix series of Unfortunate Events is written by like the original guy, like created by the original guy that wrote the books. And by the end of it, like the first one, there's no really like telling about what's going on. And then as the books go on, it's like, oh, there's like a secret society, but like there's good members of a secret society and evil members of a secret society, but they're all originally in like a schism from the same society. And as these books go on, you find more and more information about how everybody in the books, like throughout the books, has been in the secret society. And there's like a hotel, and everyone meets at the hotel, and they burn down the hotel, and everybody that's from the books, like maybe or maybe not perishes within this hotel, and then they expand the world even further, and they're like on an island, and they're like repopulating everything, and the only people that survive are like, and like, but it's like these are like kids books,
right?
And they've like expanded this world so far that it feels like there's like not really anywhere they can really
Yes,
take
where can you go? It's a
yeah.
real problem. And if you were going to firmly end it, which of course I totally bought that they had firmly ended it because it was like, wait, he's out again. He's free. He's cleared of obligations. He's destroyed the head of the high table. Admittedly, they keep saying there's always another scumbag who can be
Yeah.
the head of the high table, which is very
like,
realistic.
you get the feeling that it's like corporatized by the end of it. It's like there's like a corporate board, and the corporate board handles like all the things related to the rules of what the assassins can do. And then, like there's no like the assassins, like they're all killing each other so fast that it's like they're not even like, oh well, the purpose of this assassination thing, the purpose of the assassination program, it seems like, is just to kill other assassins. Like they don't even, at no point is there even like a they put out a contract and everyone runs after it. It's almost like a great game rather than like
right, because there's all those scenes of them, have with the vast board of like what price is on what person's head, and of course the highest price is on John Wick's head, so everyone's after him, and blah blah blah. So he's always having to degrade himself fighting far lesser fighters, but millions of them. I mean, they're just everywhere, and he has to fight all of them on his way to a meme fight.
One of those because there's like that room full of telemarketers, pretty much.
Yes.
And they call him up, and it's like they're talking on the phone. They're like, all right, well, we're gonna put like an $18 million contract on his head. And then there's like a stock board, and the thing just keeps going up and up. And you're like, I wonder what it's like to be one of those, like in the room as one of those telemarketers. You pick up the phone, and you're like, oh, he's excommunicado. Put it on the board.
Oh, slot him in. It's all very old fashioned. It's old fashioned, big clunky telephones. Everything for some reason is anti-technology in there.
Yeah.
So the board is literally like slots of like wood things that get taken out and replaced. Yeah, it's some conceit of the directors that they're now stuck with. Nothing can be high tech. It is nicely visual, but it is an odd choice.
Probably. I mean, it's almost like steampunk in that way, but it's like like it's like steampunk, but in like a 1970s kind of way.
Yes, you suddenly recede. All the women have these odd 70s-ish, 60s, 70s beehives or something. Yeah. So and there's no explanation, which I like.
I liked the Matrix tie-in, the fact that they got Lawrence Fishburne in there.
Yes,
as like the Bowery, the Bowery King, and he's he gets to do his Morpheus thing, but he gets to do it in so much more of a theatrical, almost like King Lear kind of way.
Yes, he has this huge booming laugh. Ha ha ha! Everything is supersized, and every time someone threatens him, he's just like, ha ha ha! I'm the Bowery King. You can't.
That reveal was crazy because he's like it's the second or third. I guess it's the third movie where he's had the contract put out on him because he's excommunicado, and they're like, oh well, it might be the second movie, but they're like, oh, there's a $14 million contract on John Wick, so every assassin comes, and there's just like a homeless guy.
Yeah,
like, they're gonna kill the homeless guy, aren't they? Like, something like that, and then he's just like whispers something to the homeless guy. And he puts him under the blanket, and then they just go down into like this crazy world.
Yeah,
and you realize like this is the Bowery, and Lawrence Fishburne is the king of the Bowery. And there's that great line where he's like, you either get a war. Yeah, because it must be the second one because he's going up against Gamora, but he's like, you either get a war or you give me a gun. And he's like, get this man a gun.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. And he winds up he gives, at some point, in some crazy deal, he'll only give John Wick 7 bullets, but then he winds up, when they, the high table forces come for him, because they're coming for anyone who helps John Wick, they give him 7 cuts across the face with a whip. Or 7 cuts anyway, and he's got 7.
I think it's a $7 million contract, and then 1 bullet for each $1 million.
Yes, that's it.
By not killing John Wick.
By not killing him, yes.
But like this world is so insane that the only way to really tell the good characters from the bad characters is that John Wick will do something like he puts a sword through the guy, but then he's like, well, as long as you don't pull out the sword, you can live.
Yes.
and, if you pull out the sword, you bleed out. And
Yeah.
it's like being, not killing when you can is, like, the only way you can really be like, "Oh, well, this is a good guy," and then the other characters are bad guys because 'cause they're just gonna try to kill,
Well,
like
and they're also sometimes he'll just level judgment, like the deaf girl assassin. I say girl because she looks so young, but she's a young woman assassin, but she's
Yeah.
deaf. And she actually it tries to she wants to buy him a drink and he won't take the drink, which is just like in a Western, that means you're worthless and I hate you. And she
Yeah.
says, "Well, I'll be seeing you." And he actually uses the childish, "Not if I see you first." And I was like, wow. Well,
She's,
it is a good burn.
she's that model that every Ruby Rose.
Oh, yeah, is that her
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I should have looked her up, but yes, and she's quite striking, and it's a fun thing, and they wind up having a fight scene together, and, she
Yeah.
goes after him, yeah, and he has to kill her, of course. He has to kill everyone.
Yeah, but some like on the occasion, right? Like when he really respects somebody, like they had Common in there for some reason, which I wanna know how many movies because like if you ever listen to Common rap, like his rap is
Mhm.
like very conscious, like it's very like like everybody put their guns down and let's
Mm.
let's get into the intellectual part of rap music. But then every movie they're like, okay, you're thug number 6, and but
Well,
he's
supposedly,
yeah
if you're got any name at all and you're a huge fan, and you go to the Chad Stahelski or someone, that's who they want. So that's how Norman Reedus, at least that's the story, got in. He just went up and said, "I'm such a huge fan
he's
of the Wicks.
great.
Can you
He's
get me in?"
he's
Yeah,
great in like everything he's in, but
yeah, he's wonderful. I love how
I
the way
always
he's
I always
aged.
find it very funny that, like, 'cause I used to be a big Walking Dead fan for, like, at least
Mhm,
like, of the comics, like, huge fan, but also, like, the TV
mhm.
show, until they kinda jumped the shark at some point, and they kinda,
Mhm.
like, they killed too many of the characters.
Right, right.
They were all trying to get off the sinking ship or whatever, but if you listen to him, because they made like they're really trying to spin off as much Walking Dead stuff as they could because AMC had never had like a big success that big, right?
Mhm,
Like it was Breaking Bad and it was Walking Dead, and they
mhm.
did like these reality shows where it would be like Norman Reedus driving around in his truck, and like his actual voice is like like it's not that southern accent that he puts on in movies,
Uh-huh.
but in every movie he's like, hey, what's going on out there? And then you hear him and he's like, hey, I'm Norman Reedus, and it's like that's not don't talk like that. I don't like
But
that.
he's so wonderfully dissipated looking that you just hope
Yeah.
he never tries to get any work done because it's just like his fortune now is the bags under his eyes and
Yeah,
just
I
his
don't
look.
think you can at this point.
I don't think so either, but it's perfect. It really works. It's so nice to see somebody who's lived a, shall we say, an excessive life. Yeah.
I I don't necessarily like that they, kept him alive. I guess they had to at the end of Ballerina, but,
I'm not expecting that. I thought they
yeah,
killed him. So yeah, that was a little weird.
or
I
maybe
thought
they wanna
they
bring him
must
into,
want to bring
like
him back
yeah,
in the John Wick 5. Oh my God, that's what that means. Yeah. Well, what do you
Ballerina
think of the
2.
dog tie-in? There's an obsession with dogs ever since the puppy thing. The puppy dies. That's
Yeah, it makes me
legendary.
Uneasy because 'cause I'm waiting for every puppy that I see to
Oh, I
die.
know. It does up the
Yeah.
emotional ante so bad because 'cause you're just constantly yeah, some dogs.
So the original one, right?
Mhm.
Like the original,
Yeah,
the original, what Daisy, I guess, is the dog that
Daisy,
gets
the
killed,
little
and it's, like,
puppy.
really sad. I really liked, I mean, I hate, I hate this scene, but I liked the way that they built up this emotional connection that you have to this universe by having it's just a normal universe for the first 15 minutes, right? Like, there's
Mhm.
nothing weird about it.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Oh, well, his wife died," and it's, like, sad, and you're like, obviously, he did something related to, like, crime, and he's, like, a
Mhm.
badass guy, but you're not expecting, like, video game world to, like, take over in,
Yeah.
like, 15 minutes. So, like, he's sitting there, and then the Russians, and for some reason, he speaks Russian, and they're all like,
Mhm.
"Ah!" It's like the guy from Nora and his friends or like,
Right, right, right.
and, so, like, that all thing happens, and then, the puppy dies. It's really sad, but they build this emotional tie to you
Mhm.
where it's
Mhm.
like, this is, like, the one time that you really get this emotional, pathos that
Mhm.
in this world where they're like, "See, we killed the dog, alright." And
Mhm.
then you get thrown into, like, this world where the logic, like, it's literally video game logic, like, the logic of it is, like, kill or you get killed, and there's, like,
Mhm.
here are the rules, and it's like, and it feels like you're watching somebody play a video game in some ways, like, and it gets crazier and crazier, but I don't think this would have worked as well if they didn't start it out with, like, in our world, and then be like, "Well,
Yes.
we're introducing you to
Oh,
the
yeah, and then vault
universe."
too far because, at first he's at a gas station and he meets a
Yeah.
just some thuggy guy, but it turns out he's a pampered son of a local gangster, and that he
And then
wants to
it's like within seconds, and I love the whole Baba Yaga. They're like the boogeyman, and they say it over and over again. They're like
over and over.
you could tell they're having so much fun saying Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
And
yeah,
and how Keanu Reeves can bring this off is just astonishing because he doesn't have obvious facility with lines. He never has had. I mean, but he was
yeah.
always game for anything his entire career. I mean, this is a guy who, as a very young actor, played Hamlet on stage, which just didn't bear thinking of because his ability to deliver complex lines and everything was just always like, yeah. But he was so lovable
It's just like
anyway.
be or not to be.
I
Yeah,
know, you can just
that is
imagine.
the question.
Oh my god.
Movies I've seen this year though, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which
Uh,
I remember from way back, but didn't see. Watched The Matrix for the first time since I was a kid.
oh wow.
Yeah, and Point Break or whatever, like,
You've been binging Keanu,
oh,
yeah.
I've been on like a just not even like as a purposeful thing, just like
Mm,
I just happen to have seen a lot of Keanu Reeves
mhm,
movies
mhm.
this last year, so it's like crazy to to then watch all the John Wick movies. I feel like I'm up on my Keanu.
You were really pretty up on your Keanu. Yeah, and he's such a beloved he always was. He was then. I mean, at least among the people I knew, you're just like, you felt a helpless love for him.
Yeah,
That was hard to even account for. Like, because he was considered more laughable then. He's just simply been around too long now. It's like, how can you laugh at him? I mean,
my mom thinks like that's her like celebrity crush. She always
oh
talks.
yeah, who doesn't love him? Oh, every straight woman loves him, certainly.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
he's
that's
just
like
legendary for his
more than any other celebrity.
oh
So
yeah, for his
when
quote unquote good
when I
deeds.
used
He
to ask,
goes around
yeah,
being kind and nice and shush. When they did all those photos of him standing with women celebrities or women of all ages fans, and his hand was out every
yeah,
time.
he was the hover hand.
So he wouldn't grope in
Yeah,
any way. And you're just like, everyone's just like, oh my God, this guy's too good to be true. He's too good to be
yeah. But
true.
there's one picture that of Keanu Reeves shaking hands with Netanyahu that made me
Oh, I know. I did hear
that
that.
really
It
bummed me
made
down.
everyone go, wait a minute.
Because it was for the longest time, right? Like everyone's always as soon as someone's like, this actor's great, like everybody loves him, like he's
Yeah.
a good guy too.
Something always happens.
Everyone's like, how can we find a way to like bring this guy down? And
I remember the same thing with Dolly Parton. Something it was building to just peak worship, and then somebody come up with something that Dolly had said or done, and it was just like, yeah, it can always be done. But nevertheless, give for a celebrity, he's
yeah,
incredibly beloved. But just to watch him deliver lines that are now his lines, like so again, she says he keeps telling her to get out, and she says, "Why don't you get out?" And he says heavily, like he'd said in a way earlier film, "I'm working on it."
yeah.
And it's not like it's an artful line delivery, but somehow the laborious heaviness of his delivery works so wonderfully with this as he gets
There's
more and
something
more.
very John Wayne about it in like a way. Not, I mean, John Wayne was obviously a horrible human being, but they're like John Wayne, like those kinds of movies
Oh,
where it's
so
like,
effective on screen. He
yeah,
was inarguable.
it's
Yeah.
like every John Wayne movie, he's just trying to ride off into the sunset. And I feel
Yeah.
the same way about Keanu Reeves in this. Like
Mhm.
he's trying to ride off into the sunset in every movie, and it's like that he's not going to.
No, oh no, and that's why killing him was so perfect and why it's a little disturbing to have to bring him back. But okay, they're doing it. But yeah, just the world weariness, the sense that he lost everything he really cared about.
I could see them fucking with people that like the movies by bringing him back as like Sean Wick. And he's like his brother, and he's
Oh
like,
god. Oh my god. He's so evil. His twin brother.
yeah. Well, I guess they already did that with they wanted to bring back Peter Stormare as like the as the mob boss, but they're like,
Yeah.
well, we killed him off in the last movie. How
Yeah,
do we bring him
yeah.
back? And he's like, I am the brother of
I'm
the
the
mob.
brother of No, it is a time-honored thing that it's always available. Yes. Yes. But just that he can stand in for, again, a couple of primary emotions that are experienced by a suffering working class is one of the most
Yeah.
admirable things about the series.
Well,
Like,
I mean, it's vengeance under capitalism. Like
oh,
it's
absolutely, 100% is.
it's yeah.
You can't get out of this dirty, filthy world of killer. Everyone's got to kill everyone else. Everyone's just, by the time you're a conscious being, you're completely enmeshed in this world that you cannot get out of, and you're getting more and more
not
excited every day.
there's the rhyme and reason that they give you for why the world is this way,
Mm.
you know, within the world universe of the movie is like
Yeah.
it's nonsensical.
Yes.
Why do people need to do this? Oh, they need to do this because that's their job. All right, like
And you know exactly, and who cares? So from then on, you're just like, I'm there. You don't have to say another word. I don't need any more. Like, don't explain it. It
there's
just
something
feels.
in
Yeah.
Ballerina. There's something so horrifying about the shot where the whole time she's carrying around her little ballerina thing, like her little ballerina, you know, it's
Oh
just
yeah, the
another one of these
dancer
trinkets, and
thing. Yeah.
you see her, and it zooms out on a room, and the room's just filled with the same ballerina
Filled
trinkets.
with the ballerinas.
And it's like, oh shit, like even these like these kids are being pumped out in the same way. I mean, you can
Yeah.
see it with like an Elon Musk type figure or something, right? Like there's this obsession now with like birth rates and building up like
Right.
these societies and the kind of people that we want. And
Mm-hmm.
it feels like very in that kind of realm where it's like they're just pumping out these kids, and there's like, oh, why do we have to take these kids and like capture them? And it's like we just need more, like we need more kids, we need the society to work, but they're not trying
Right.
to overthrow the society that exists already. They're just
And that
trying
really
to, yeah.
explains why you had this very dramatic thing that is suddenly cut short, where she gets to the sort of Swiss off or whatever it is village, the wintry village, the cute village, and it turns out her sister was kept behind because the sister
Yeah.
was already kind of poisoned
Yeah, like
by
polluted.
by the world of killing. So the father didn't bring her, didn't think she could save her. So just to be, so you think they're going to fight together. They're going to get together to kill the patriarchal. No, she's just, he
Yeah,
just
there's
orders
immediately
her to be, both of
yeah.
them to be killed, and she winds up being killed, and that's it. You barely know her. But it's very much in keeping with exactly that. All of those ballerina images, there's just
Bye,
countless.
you sister, we hardly knew ye.
Yeah, this poor sister who we hardly knew. Yeah, they really makes very little of her, which I was kind of shocked. I'm like, come on, that's
Yeah.
just obvious. You could get so much emotional shit. Just watch the Black Widow movies, and sisters in action films are primo.
But I mean, it creates like an affecting situation where it's like the Gabriel Byrne character is the chancellor. The chancellor
The
is
child.
so not the first evil chancellor to come out of Austria, but
Right, exactly.
but like he's so he's just his decisions are made on these cold calculating whims, and then it becomes so satisfying where he's giving him the fucking speech. You don't have a choice. You think you still have a choice. Your only choice, and then he just gets plugged in the head. Like in the
Yes.
middle of that,
Oh yeah, John Wick's patented. He
Yeah.
doesn't listen to the end of the speech. He just
Yeah.
says, and bam, which is very satisfying because villains do go on and on. Yeah.
They always it's always like the same speech in these movies. They're like,
Yes.
you think you have a choice, you don't have a choice.
You
This
don't
is
have
who
a
you
choice.
are. This is fate. And then to watch somebody get plugged in the head is like, how many times has John Wick heard that speech by the way? Like it's gotta be everyone's always trying to give him that speech.
Yes.
And then he's like waiting to see someone else get the speech, and he's like, I'm gonna cut this short. If you want the speech, I could recite it. Like it's
I mean, I did like though that they were using the "I just want to go home" thing, and for a long time he says it in a number of points, and you really get to think about like he doesn't have there's this, I think it's in 2, they firebomb his house, and at the
yeah.
end of 2 he goes and sits in the burnt out shell of his house with the dog he's just rescued, a pit bull that he doesn't name, is just kind of like dog, and they just sit there, and then who comes and gets him? Winston, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Winston comes and gets it. And anyway, but he keeps repeating this.
It's the Lance Reddick.
Oh, it comes, yeah, Sharon.
He brings him to he brings
Comes
him
and gets
to
it. Yeah. Oh, and I don't know, it's so melancholy. It's his last performance is in Lance
in
Reddick
Ballerina,
is in Ballerina. So yeah, we don't have him anymore either. So too bad. And what they're gonna do are they gonna keep CGI? What are they gonna do? Old John Wick? That could work if they did something with. He's now old. He's grizzled old John Wick. Maybe they could do something with that, like Skyfall. It's now old James Bond. I kind of like that. Maybe they could do that.
But that's why I said like you cryogenically freeze him.
Oh well, yes, that's a more that is more inventive.
Yeah.
But I like and then in the end he says, "I want to go home," and apparently home is just with what remains of Helen. So they're in side by side graves at the end. And you're like, all right, that's not bad. That's very noir-ish.
But the other thing is like, I mean, it's such a badass moment in that fourth movie where they're having the duel, and he lets himself get shot in the shoulder or whatever, and
Yes.
then he's like bleeding everywhere, and the guy, like Bill Skarsgård, is like, "I gets the coup de grace."
The coup de grace.
Yeah, and then, so he puts the gun, and he's like, "You arrogant asshole." He didn't shoot,
He
which
never
is the moment
shoot.
if I was Bill Skarsgård, I wouldn't just go, "Huh?" I would just
Oh,
I would take off, but he just stands there.
I know. That
And
was a beautiful ending, though. It
yeah,
was beautiful.
so
I
it's like
remember
he,
being in the theater, and there was a guy in the theater because we're all waiting on tenterhooks. How the hell is it ever going to work? And the brilliant out that they came up with, and this guy in the theater went, "Woohoo!" And then went literally like a Simpsons character, "Sorry." Because he didn't mean to yell. It was one of the more beautiful moments in theaters.
but like there's it's the fact that he doesn't get capped, he doesn't get, he kind of fades away.
Yes.
Like he bleeds out
He
slowly.
sags down the steps
That
and
makes
lies
it
there and
more
bleeds.
like,
Yeah, it
'cause
does.
I think it would be deeply upsetting to, John Wick gets like shot in the head or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. No, that and I think that's what's alarming is that they really had a nice ending. They really came up with a very good
Yeah.
finale. So
But I
to
mean,
bring it back is
they could have the Eve character take over the John Wick universe, and you could do something like that, or
well, I think that's what they wanted to do,
yeah.
but maybe if Ballerina isn't doing well enough, perhaps to justify. I don't know. I don't know. It's who could resist it? God, you can just imagine the bucket loads of money that they're being brought in and piled up in front of them. So I mean,
Yeah. There's a lot of people really like love these movies.
oh, I know. My God. I'm one of them, but I still wanted it to end. I'm in favor of ending. So this is going to be rough. This is going to be rough.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what they do. I guess you could have them on a submarine. I'm just trying to think of how, like, because you can't really. They went to Casablanca, which
Yeah.
I like that they started like really referencing, like heavy referencing movies.
Yes.
He goes to Casablanca, the neutral zone or whatever,
Mhm.
and he gets to run around there
He
with
has a Lawrence of
Halle Berry.
Arabia kind of thing out in the desert meeting
Yeah,
sheiks for a while.
Halle Berry as his like
He goes
as
to
his,
Japan
yeah.
to deal with, samurai culture, the
Yeah, he's
Shambara
and then they
films.
have that whole entire sequence where they're going around and around, like, around the Louvre, and they're
Mhm.
in Paris, and they're, like,
Oh,
they're
yes,
all
that was wonderful.
driving around, yeah,
Yeah,
and they're all shooting
around
at
and
each other.
around. That
So,
must have
like,
been
the only
amazingly
the only
hellish.
places you could really take it from there, it has to be, like, underwater, in space,
No, you're right, because they even had the logic of how can you get John Wick, and it actually had a chilling realism to it only in the fact that, there's a lot of it's totally fantastical. You destroy every friend and alliance he's got and any safe house. So that just
yeah,
has political horror story all over it because,
yeah.
that's exactly what you do. You make sure he can't stay anywhere safely and anyone who shelters him or helps him is also going to be dead or,
Well,
executed by it or
they
whatever.
have such a good, way of doing it that's not like, "Oh, this is Interpol." Like, they loved for a little while, they loved doing that in movies. They loved being like, "We're putting Interpol watch out
Yes,
for this
there were
person."
a lot of Interpol
Yeah.
flourishes for a while.
And then you're like,
Exactly. But
"Sorry,
this was more heartfelt
right."
because it
Yeah.
really was like trying to get it where you live. Not only, yeah, and but they won't go after you; they'll go after your family. So you had these two rival badass, guys. One, I think, one's Japanese, one Chinese, but they both got daughters they're protecting. So it's like, no, they'll go after your loved ones and destroy them. And you're like, if you've read histories of, I don't know, the Irish Republican Army, Michael
Yeah.
Collins, this is exactly what you do. They went and burnt Michael Collins' farm down. It's just like anyone
But
anything
it's
you
like,
love,
John Wick is
gone.
so, I mean, because his wife dies of, I wanna say cancer, like, it's
Cancer.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, like, so she's already gone.
He's already gone.
The house
Well,
is the
all he's
first
got is
second
his
one.
cool car and his puppy.
Yeah,
So take
and
the
then
car, kill
there's,
the
like, that
puppy.
there's that sad moment where he finally gets his, in the second one, he finally gets his Mercedes back, and he
Mhm.
jumps into it, and then it immediately is wrecked, and
Yes, that's
and,
right.
like,
Really
he
destroyed.
drives off in, like, the burnt, like, husk of a car, and
No, it's important that he have nothing that he loves. Nothing.
but, like, by the 3rd movie, I mean, he has, like, tangential friends that, and if they get a notification, are like, "Well, we can help you by giving you, like, an hour to get away," like
Right, right. It was very nice because even as it expand because it sort of had a double move. It expanded world globally, but it constricted in terms of what he could do and where he could go and who he could seek out. So that was
I
nice.
guess
The big squeeze.
Atlantis, he could find Atlantis.
Atlantis.
The lost city of El Dorado.
No, I think the space station one. I think you're really onto something.
Yeah, someone's gonna listen to this and pitch it, and I'm just like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said it."
You shouldn't have. You could have made millions.
I was like, when we did our after party thing last night, I was like pitching podcast ideas, and afterwards I was thinking like, maybe I should stop pitching these ideas. Like
Yes.
someone's gonna hear my ideas and be like, I'm gonna take this.
I'm gonna just take that. Yes, you can't own ideas. I'll just claim it. Yes,
But
exactly.
like I think that there could be something cool in they unfreeze John Wick. Like at the last minute you find out that he's like they froze him or they cloned him or
Right.
there's something like that. And
Mhm.
then somebody's taken over because we had that thing in the news where those astronauts got stuck on the International Space
Yeah,
Station.
yeah, yeah.
So you find out that like a group of assassins have taken over the International Space Station
Mhm.
and they now control it, and you get like a Elon Musk type villainous billionaire figure that you kind of hate, but you're like,
Mhm.
this guy's in control of whatever this is, but you get him to shoot Keanu Reeves up into space, and it's like,
That's true. No, you could do a kind of
yeah, and
John Wick. That
like
might be the way.
like he's gonna walk away. It's like, John Wick, didn't he walk away? And he's like, this is my last one, man.
No, that could work because he already has it. There's already a lot of the scenes that have a kind of Blade Runner look to them anyway. We have
Yeah,
Sokka scenes that are very, very beautiful. There's fight scenes where people are turning livid green and, hellfire red and everything in the Osaka Continental Hotel. Yeah,
yeah.
you can just
Well,
keep
I
pushing
think
the
the
neon at
International Space
night.
Station has a like kind of has a hotel feeling to it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, you could have them fighting in ships, and then you could have like the Continental Hotel, but like the space station one.
It's the space station
Like,
version.
you can't fight in here, and then he like pulls the oxygen thing, like pulls out the thing, and then everyone's like, he's space excommunicado.
I think you've solved it. That's
Yeah.
terrifying. I never would have thought of that.
Excommunicado or something. I don't know. It's like
That is wonderful. All right. I don't think we're going to top that. I
yeah.
think we should stop right here. But what are you doing lately? Have you got any plugs? Anything you want to talk about that you've got coming up?
Yeah, well, I mean, just subscribe to youtube.com/movie night extravaganza.
Mhm.
We record live every Tuesday and sometimes Friday, depending on
Mhm.
the week. It's kind of this month has been a little like up and down because Conan went on tour, and then I went to Minneapolis, and I was helping
Mm.
out with this music festival thing, and then so I took a couple weeks off, but
Mm.
we're back at it.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing like Barry Lyndon in a few weeks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're doing Jackie Brown on Tuesday, which I don't know
Wow.
if this will be done like edited by Tuesday, but that's our
Mhm.
next movie. Yeah, so we have stuff coming up, and like
I have to say, I really envy you. You really just range around and grab whatever you want. You don't feel we often feel obligated to like, what's happening now? How can we make this interesting? And it would be just so nice to be like, always just the hell with it. What we feel like
yeah,
talking
I
about, I
mean,
would love that.
it kind of like sometimes I like kick myself for not coming up with like a because I kind of like really came up with this on the fly. I like kind of was like laid off from Jackter at the time, like they were kind of downsizing the film part of it, and
Mm,
they're like they'd helped me like for like a year with work because Michael Brooks died, and like
yeah,
they're like, oh, we'll keep you, we don't know what we're doing with this whole part of it though. And
right.
so after that I was like, I want to keep podcasting though, like I don't want to stop. So I
Mhm,
just was like, all right, movie night extravaganza, I'll do
mhm.
that. And
Yeah.
so like it's broad enough that it's pretty much anything.
Mhm.
And that worked, but sometimes I'm like, maybe I should have found a gimmick or something, like I don't.
It's so hard. I don't even know. People, that's what people told us too. You got to get some really unique angle, some gimmick. And after a while,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't, what the fuck, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I came up empty. But you guys, you have tremendous like verve, and wit, and there's a lot. You have several hosts, several guests often, and it can really
Yeah,
get
and
into a.
we've cycled around enough that I think it works. I like that we do the, month of, like, Oscar movies every year.
That is a good. That's a
That,
good.
like, gives me a
And
chance to
didn't you
dip
take
into a
on
lot of other.
finances in movies, something like that? For the financial
Yeah, we did
good
Money Night
themes.
Extravaganza because we did,
Yeah, that
Dumb
was
Money was the one that you were on, but we did, like, Wall Street, we did Wolf of Wall Street, we
yeah,
did,
that was clever.
yeah.
Yeah,
We do theme months, but because Conan's been, he dropped his
good.
album, The Way of the Neutron,
Yeah,
so with his band, and so, like, he's kind of been off, so we've
right.
kind of been a little bit like more low key about stuff, but I think he's back from tour now. So
Yeah.
this summer is going to be summer. We usually come up with a lot of stuff. I think we're going to do eventually like a Star Wars original trilogy thing where
Oh, wow. Okay. That'll be a popular favorite.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything nearly that exciting. I just am writing my review of The Materialist. That's a romantic comedy.
Was it good?
It's really interesting. I don't know if I loved it, but
I loved Past Lives.
Oh, Past Lives is great. Celine
Yeah.
Song, who got, she was an Oscar nominee for Best Picture for Past Lives. If you didn't see it, highly recommend. It starts off very slow, but it's very delicate and thoughtful, and really has a
I don't know. I didn't see this, but her husband, who's the real life version of the guy from Past Lives, like
yes, it's very autobiographical.
Her autobiographical story. So her husband, that's that she wrote that movie about, as like the white guy and like the love triangle, where she's her boyfriend from or like her best friend from Korea, that's like her the love interest that was like in love with her and went to America to find her, which is like true story. That guy wrote Challengers.
Oh, that's right. I saw that.
Yeah.
I looked it up and
So,
saw
like,
it. Yes.
they both released love triangle movies as like their first movie.
Yeah.
Eileen Jones also she like did some thing where it was, I think it was Seagull, like, or like Chekhov, like it was like a Chekhov play or something, but she did it like with Sims characters during the pandemic. That was like her big, because she's like this, like she was this famous playwright before.
Yeah, still theater. Yeah.
So she did like I think she did like Seagull or Chekhov, like one of the Chekhov plays. She did it with like Sims.
Yeah.
And there's all these reviews of like, they're like, this is a little too avant-garde. I don't really get it.
Yeah, she's very ambitious. So she's taking on romantic comedy, but in highly realistic terms, in terms of she's dealing with these kind of matchmaker sites that are, of course, everywhere. And she worked for one for 6 months herself. So she knows all this insider jargon, and the really quite ruthless and callous ways you start to think about, human beings.
Yeah.
And so that aspect of it is super interesting, but it's a very like abrasive combo, because you've got these fantastical elements, like literally it's Dakota Johnson torn between Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans, and they're both so absurdly handsome and charming, and she looks like a supermodel, and you're just like, okay. So
she broke up with, she was dating the Coldplay guy, and they like, and in the middle of the press run for The Materialist, they like broke up.
Oh wow. So anyway, yes, it's kind of got fantasy and realism like scraping against each other in a way that's interesting. But so yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I got to see it, because I'm such a big fan of Past Lives.
Yeah, I have to say that was really moving by the end, really powerful.
You don't see like movies like that anymore, I feel like. I mean, it's like cliche to say that, but it's like there was like a time period where that kind of like romantic story, I feel like, was so much more front and center.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It's really startling, and it's really focused intently on these three characters. And yeah, there's a lot about it that's like, wow, you pulled that off. So anyway, yeah, really kind of struggling with trying to do it justice anyway. But at any rate, that's it. We're wrapping up our episode on John Wick and Ballerina, and I'm calling it They're Seeking Rough Justice. Thank you, our dear listeners, and of course, triple thanks to our subscribers who keep us in ice skates and flamethrowers, I guess, in honor of these films. If you're not a subscriber yet, but you like what you hear, please consider signing up with Patreon for all the Film Site content instead of just the half that's available to the public. Please note that half of our episodes are also available to view on YouTube. This is going to be one of them. So yes, you'll get to see us in all our glory, chattering and jabbering way. And you can follow news of the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We ditched X as most join us in 2 weeks for more fantastic Film Site conversation. And until then, of course, we are thrilled that you joined us. Bye now.